it's so hard to be back all week. I'm apologizing in advance for Fanboys 4 or 5 and what we put you through, so you know. So thank you for that. And turn to the teacher who's at the end of the aisle who brought you here today, who thought that this is valuable. Give him a wave, give him a little heart, tell him thank you, because without all the faculty support that we have here, English and beyond, this would be possible. So when Mrs. Inc. and I were brainstorming something special to do for Writers Week 30, because 30 is kind of a milestone, we were in agreement that the student periods are always the highlight of the week. No matter how giddy we get about a professional guest, I know I always leave the auditorium with the student stories just rattling around in my brain. And so we thought, what better way to honor 30 years of Writers Week than to bring back some former students who just a few years or decades ago were you sitting in this auditorium listening to stories on the Writers Week stage. And they will both tell you a little bit about, I think, times where they were on stage as well. But just to give you a little context for what our guests were writing about, as a way to have some fun with like these different eras of Writers Week, we gave each grad a prompt to maybe in some way frame their presentation around a different Taylor Swift song or era. She is, after all, Time Magazine's Person of the Year. Maybe she'll be at the Super Bowl. Who knows if she can get back from Japan. Her presentations behind me might not, necessarily be about a song, but maybe it'll be about a time where they were able to shake it off, or about a particularly cruel summer, or maybe the last time that they were fearless. So there that is. So we have two grads behind us. First, we will have 2002 grad Jeff Negus and 2017 grad Nabila Syed. So first and foremost, I graduated, I went to Friend, I graduated with this person behind me. We've been friends for many, many years. I'm thrilled to introduce him. Please help me welcome to the Writers Week stage, Jeff Negus.
Hi everybody, how's it going? Everyone okay this morning? Doing okay? Like a little okay. Nice. So I'm Jeff. I'm here to talk to you today about making video games. So I specifically the idea of sharing vision and what it means to collaborate with people in a creative setting. Some of you might be doing this already. Some of you, this may be a new thing, but hopefully everybody can get something out of this. So like Russ was saying, I graduated. Excuse me, Mr. Anderson. What I meant to say. What did I say? Mr. Anderson said, I graduated in 2002. I was, I came from a creative family and did a bunch of different things here at Friend. I was, as you can see, I'm going to show some old pictures. I was on the drum line. I was a drum captain. I was in musicals and different things. I was really inspired by working with people and making things. At the time, I had no idea what I wanted to do with anything, and so I just thought I should go ahead and try and do the performance thing. And again, I was really inspired by working with other people. So when I went to college, I liked writing. I liked cameras and movies, and who doesn't, obviously. I thought I'd be a musician. In fact, I was in a band with my best friends, and one of those guys you'll recognize just now from being up on stage, that's Mr. Anderson up there with me and the rest of the band. Thought that's what we were going to do, and I thought I was going to be a musician. And while I was in college at Northern Illinois, I got this opportunity to do an internship on a movie set that was directed by Anthony Hopkins, and I was just blown away by all the different departments, all the different things that people do. I got to work in 6 different departments and learn about how movies are made, learn about how people come together behind this common vision to make something. And I left that set going, well, I want to tell stories, I want to make movies, that's what I want to do. Great idea, right? So I moved to LA. I didn't have a job, I didn't have a place to live, I just decided it was the right thing to do after I graduated college, and started at the bottom. And I worked on every movie set I could, every film, TV set. I was really fortunate to get some opportunities to work as a production assistant, getting coffee for people, doing all the jobs that nobody else wanted to do. But while I was there, I got to see how things worked, and I got to start learning about how to make movies. And so when you're a PA, production assistant, you put together your call sheets, and every day you work, you collect 400 call sheets, and that gets you into the union, become a director, an assistant director. And so I thought that's what I wanted to do. I worked on some television and movies, and none of these references will probably make sense to you, but I worked on a few things, and got my days together. I thought I was gonna, okay, I'm taking it to the union, I'm gonna become an AD, and I had it in my hands, and I was like, oh man, I don't wanna do this job anymore. For whatever reason, got to that point, and I was like, this is not what I want anymore. And so I put that aside, and a friend of mine reached out to me and said that he had a line on a job making, testing video games. And I was like, well, I love video games, so I should maybe just, I can get paid to play them, sure, why not? And I get to start at the bottom again, who wouldn't want to? So I moved to a company called Naughty Dog. Sounds like some people know Naughty Dog. I was really fortunate to get to work on a few different franchises for them. I was testing games on the Uncharted series, starting with Uncharted 2, and while I was there, something really special happened. I not only started learning like some of the game design methodology, but I also got to learn about their capture tools, their technology, and combined with like a passion I have for editing, I was like, man, I can maybe make a trailer out of this stuff, and then, who knows. So on my off time, the off hours after work, I was capturing footage from the game while testing it, still testing it, doing the work, and then making these trailers. And they started to use those trailers to sell the games. They moved me out of QA, quality assurance, which is what testing is called. And I got to just make trailers and behind the scenes movies full time for them. Which was a blast, and it got me around game production a lot more. So while I was there, I started learning all the sort of methodology of how to make games, working on Uncharted and The Last of Us. I made a feature-length documentary on the making of The Last of Us, which again shows how many people it takes to make one of these video games, which is a lot. I got an opportunity to work at Infinity Ward to work on Call of Duty. Where I was able to move into editorial and motion capture, and I became really interested and really invigorated by the process of motion capture. So I'm going to talk with you mostly today about motion capture and some game design elements for anybody that might know about that stuff. It's been a wild ride moving over to Call of Duty. It's a really big endeavor, and there's a lot of people that work on it. On Modern Warfare 2, I was made the narrative director at Infinity Ward, and so I'm going to talk to you a little bit here about how we make games. So, first of all, I'm going to show you a video just to kind of orient everybody. This went up on TikTok, made by the company I work for, that kind of gives an idea of how we make a character for an existing franchise, a brand new character. So you're going to see me and the Call of Duty narrative director talking with one of our main actors, Alain Mesa, who's this amazing dude that played Alejandro Vargas in Modern Warfare 2, if anybody's played that game. And this is a quick video on how we make a character in Modern Warfare.
How we make a new Modern Warfare character.
So the first thing you want to do when you're creating a Modern Warfare 2 character is have an idea of what that character's intentions and motivations are. We've been really lucky to have military advisors all over the world in order to build these characters, in order to create how we prosecute targets and our tactics and strategies and dialogue. We needed to speak to Mexican military, and I think that's what our audience is looking for when they play the game.
You get a writer to write who the guy is, and then you bring him to life by finding exactly the right person for the job.
This guy. My name is Alain Mesa, and I play Colonel Alejandro Vargas. I believe that Alejandro has fought many battles in many lifetimes, and he just happens to be fighting one in 2022 right now. So we all had Zoom auditions, Zoom callbacks.
We're in our reviews, trying to look through self-tapes. We see him, we stop it immediately. We were like, yo, that's Alejandro.
You sure? That was my take.
That was your take, dude?
Por favor, cálmense, que ya estamos aquí, cálmense, BID!
Nice, nice. You scan him in, get his facial data, and you do a facial test. You get a director to direct the actors and to shoot the actors.
We're gonna keep that urgency. Let's make sure we're still on the hunt for this guy.
You create some crazy camera angles, you get everything sequenced out correctly and edited well, and what you end up with is this.
I was blue. Oh, the wild ones. They called us los vaqueros. And you were clean cut. Señores y señoras, las armas need soldiers, not sicarios.
Okay, so how many people play video games? Just raise your hands if you play a video game. Okay, let's go. Cool. Okay, just a quick fun thing. Just yell if you're playing a video game. What's your favorite video game right now? What are you playing? Just yell it out if you want to yell it out. You don't... Yeah. Sweet. Okay. So I'm hearing a bunch of different types of games, which is awesome and fun. Same here, although I'm not gonna yell them out right now. So some games have a story, some games don't, as everybody knows. The games that I work on have stories, they have characters, they have a setting, they have a point of view and motivation, things that make you want to care about it. So before I get into motion capture, I just want to talk with you a little bit about storytelling and game design and sort of how we approach the immersive qualities of how to make a game. So the narrative department touches almost every department in a video game. Again, it's a lot of different people that come together. So we'll talk about design and lighting and animation and all kinds of other departments, code and different things. We use some pretty specific ways of telling a story. Other games do different things, but we use something to immerse you called PPP. This is player protagonist parity. Simply, this means whatever the character is going through, we try to make the player go through. So whatever situation they find themselves in, we want to try and reflect that emotionality, that experience that they're having with the one that you as the player are having. So if they're being hunted by somebody and they're in danger, we want you to feel that danger. And something we do to help do this is game mechanics. Game mechanics are just, and again, people may know this already, but game mechanics are anything that you can do with the controller or the keyboard. You're pushing forward on the stick, your character moves forward. You open a door, you crouch, you shoot, you jump. All these different things are ways to immerse you in not only playing the game as a challenge, but also to put you in the mindset of the characters. Because the most important thing for us in the narrative department is how do we get you to care about this? We keep answering the question, who am I, where am I going, and why? And every time we get an opportunity to do that, that's one more opportunity to immerse you further in playing video games. So at the end of the day, we use dialogue, we use motion capture, and we use specific design elements and game mechanics to get you to be more immersed in the game. A lot more to say there, but the last thing I'll say on it is, there's obviously interactive and non-interactive, and that's shown through gameplay or cinematics. Everybody's familiar, sometimes there are games where you'll be totally in control and you get to make decisions, you get to choose the path that you go on, you get to decide where you're going to go next or how to prosecute a target. And then there are other times where you lose all of your control so that you can watch a movie. And the reason that we do these third-person cinematics, which use all the traditional cinematic language, is to be able to show the character that you would otherwise be in first person, where you just see hands in front of you, to see that person interacting with the other characters. This is really important for us because it bonds them with the other characters, and then the first person bonds you with that character. So there's a lot of different things working there. But something I want to show you here is basically how we do mocap. So that's what I'm going to focus on for the rest here. As you can see, there's a really cool stage that we have, a couple different stages. This is one where we put the actor in the middle of this volume, and there are cameras all around them, and take tons of high-fidelity photos of their face, their body, and that allows us to make a digital skeleton. So we take the exact same person, we replicate them in the engine, and now we have a digital version of the same person. But how do we get that person into the game, emoting, acting, being the character that they are? Well, we cast real people. As you saw in that video, Al Mesa, who was such a joy to work with, he came in and we don't wear costumes. As you can see, they're wearing a motion capture suit. They have these little balls, if you can see them on there, these little tracking devices. Each of these correlate to a joint of the digital skeleton, which means in the real world, that's where the skeleton is, and in the virtual world, as it's tracked on the stage, the virtual skeleton moves. There's a face cam that tracks all of the facial data, all the different things that are happening, and then we get these little microphones above them. So what we do in our motion capture, we call it performance capture. We do all three of these at the same time, which gets us these results that are high fidelity and nuanced, so that we can have the most believable and relatable emotions on the screen whenever we can. So that gets us all sorts of different data into the engine. We're able to make these into different things. Now, this is what our set looks like. As you can see, it's pretty Spartan and rudimentary. There isn't much to it, and that's because it needs to be really simple. The stage is surrounded by cameras. These cameras track those balls, and they need to be not obfuscated in order to do so. That's why this set right here, as you can see, which looks like not much, is a boat. That's what a boat looks like in our motion capture stage. So when actors look at that, they have to use their imagination about where the driver's seat is, where the back of the boat is, what's in front of them, what's coming, what's around them. And one of the ways that we help them do that is by using a virtual camera. Which is a lot of my job on set, directing the actors, but also doing the cinematography. So I'll put this thing on my shoulder. It's tracked the same way that the actors are tracked, but the only difference is there is a virtual lens on the other side of it. That means on the screen, I can see not just this boat in this setting, but also what the boat looks like in the virtual world, what it actually looks like in the video game when it's finished. That means as the actors are moving and doing things, I'm able to play off of them and move around, make adjustments, and it can become this organic experience, something that can be really fun to work with them and find different ways to do things. So there's a lot of different versions of this, and one of the things are vehicles, that we build these little vehicles for people to ride and be in and everything. I, for example, got to ride a motorcycle one of the days, so this is me riding a motorcycle. It's pretty awesome, I know. I know, I get it. But that's what it looks like when somebody's on the stage riding a motorcycle. Here's what it looks like when it's in the final product. So needless to say, Farah Kareem looks way cooler riding a motorcycle than I do. That's obvious, I get that. That's cool. Next thing I'm going to show you here is just talked about a lot of different things. When a scene is like a cinematic, the way that it's shot, I'm going to show you the actors as they appear on the set, and then each of these quadrants are going to show a part of the process. So each different quadrant is the next step in the process, and the final one in the bottom right is the final product. So again, the upper left is what you're going to look at to see actors on the set doing their thing. This is what it looks like.
Gives Iran plausible deniability.
Oh, deniability, my ass. Iran's all over this. I want to know how many they have and where they intend to use them.
If Hassan is moving missiles, he has a smuggling partner.
Well, then I would advise you to find out who that is.
Give my team 2 hours with those missiles, sir. I will know everybody who's ever breathed on them.
Negative. I want them destroyed.
General, there's valuable intel there.
This is an intelligence failure, Laswell. It's not going to be a tactical one. There will be 500 enemy soldiers on that site by sunrise. We need a win fast.
So that's an example there of a scene that we turn into a movie. So how do we do that? First we start with writing a script. We work with design to figure out what all the design elements are, what the levels are going to be, the shape of the game, all those different things. But when we break down a scene, we need a script. The guy you saw in the video earlier, Brian Bloom, writes these cinematic scripts so that actors know that's the most basic blueprint of what a scene is. Everybody's familiar with what a script is. We take that and we do something at the same time called pre-visualization. So I'll take a breakdown of the script, or while he's writing the script at the same time, make a shot list and give that to an animator. We'll work together to place in the digital set rudimentary versions of the characters themselves so that we can find a sense of the scene, the pacing, the blocking, where the camera angles are going to be, all those different things that make up a movie. So this is what it looks like when it's in the pre-visualization stage. As you can see, it's before motion capture, so it's very simple movements, but it gives us an idea of where we might be pointing the camera and how the scene might feel before the actors come in to perform it. This also gives the actors a really helpful way to visualize the things that aren't on the stage, what I was mentioning what a boat looks like. Obviously, they have to imagine a lot of things while they're there, in addition to becoming the character they are. And that leads us to the most important part of motion capture, in my experience. 95% of being a good director is getting the right person for the job and casting well. And we look for people that are not only the right person for the part, but are motivated to do more work and figure out how they can become more this person and come in with their own ideas. Because that's the most exciting part. When we get onto the stage, we change things. We have the opportunity to work with these amazing people that have ideas about, well, what if I said this? Or what if I moved in this way? What if I went here instead? What if I didn't say anything here? And we have all this flexibility where we can move the door, we can move the window, we can be in a different space altogether. There's a table, we don't want it, we can lose it. It becomes a really freeing process, so we refer to it as planned spontaneity. We get to look at what the plan is, and we can throw it away in order to service, what the thing needs to do. And once we've shot this scene, we take it back to the studio where tons of people work on it in design, animation, lighting, effects, sound, and a bunch more. Lots of different people come together to do this. I could talk a ton more about this, but I'm about out of time, and I'm going to finish up here, but just by saying a couple things that I've learned since being here at Fremd and growing up and getting into the entertainment industry. First of all, effective collaboration creates art that's greater than some of its parts, full stop. In my opinion, it's awesome. You make something by yourself, go for it, that's dope. But bands, movies, video games, lots of these things that I've been involved in, plays on this stage, when people get behind an idea, that can be really challenging, but when you can all visualize it together, that can become something truly great. And it's really hard to get people aligned on an idea, but it's really important. Most of my job is simple communication, conversations and brainstorms, and then just executing on these ideas, really vigorously with a large group of people. Another thing I'd say just personally for me is staying open to unknown possibilities. This job didn't exist when I was your age. I knew what I liked, but I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't know how to apply it. And I'm here to tell you, if you don't know what you want to do, that's okay. No problem. In fact, I didn't know what I wanted to do until after college. So, it's totally cool to know what your interests are, but not how you might apply them yet. And finally, creativity comes in all shapes and sizes. I would just say, I would encourage you to find out what you're passionate about. Work really hard and have a great attitude, because I can't tell you how many people have gotten and lost jobs with good or bad attitudes. And keep your eyes open, because you'll never know what path is going to appear in front of you, and the opportunity, when opportunity knocks on the door, that you're prepared to open the door and walk through it. So it's been a real pleasure getting to talk with you all today. Thanks for having me up here, and I appreciate your time.
Let's keep that applause going for 2017 graduate Nabila Sayed.
You guys hear me okay? Yes? Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Nabila Sayed, and I am a proud 2017 Fremd graduate. I just want to start off, I'm going to try to get this a little better. Okay. You can still hear me? Okay. I just want to start off by saying how wonderful it is to be back here at Fremd for Writers Week. Writers Week meant so much to me when I was in high school. There's so much time and effort and care that goes into planning this week. So I just want to say thank you to all the teachers and admin and tech crew and everyone else involved and keeping this Prime tradition alive and strong. I spoke at Writers Week my senior year of high school in 2017, 7 years ago. I remember how scary it was to put yourself out there in front of your peers, to share a piece of yourself. Writers Week was the largest audience I had ever spoken in front of at that point. And so many people had, sent me these letters, reached out to me, DM me on Instagram saying, thank you, saying they resonated with what I had to say. It was the first time that I really believed that what I have to say matters, that it's important to share your experiences and your thoughts, and that there's so much value in that, not only for yourself, but for others. So thank you to all the student presenters who have put themselves out there this week. A huge round of applause to you all. Like I said, there is so much goodness in sharing up here, but there's also so much importance to listening. Back in 2016, I was a junior at Front. And I remember I was sitting right around there in the middle section with my English class. And this guy with brown hair, he comes up on the stage, he's a little nervous, his voice is shaking, and he got up and he spoke here. And if you're keeping up with the news back when you were like 6 to 10 years old in 2016, there was a lot happening that year. And when this guy spoke, I sat curled up in my chair, tears just streaming down my face. Even I was surprised by my reaction. I hadn't expected another student's words to mean that much to me. The bell rang, I gathered all my things, I rushed out of the classroom, I sat down in my next class, and I was typing away on my iPad, writing a letter to thank him. Then the bell rang after that class, and I was walking down the hallway upstairs near the social studies department, and I see this guy with brown hair walking, and I embarrassingly, my eyes tear up again. And at this point, I'm embarrassed, I'm frazzled, and I stop him, and I'm like, I can't lose this moment. I just need to tell you, it meant so much to me. What you said mattered to me. I'm so grateful. And to this day, I still think about that moment. Not because I want to, but because my husband will never stop teasing me about the first time we met. So if there's a few things to take away from this, it's that one. You may never know what your words might mean to someone else. And two, you too can find your spouse at Writers Week. I remember senior year when I was applying to colleges, I had a strong desire to explore the world beyond Illinois. And many of you might feel like this right now as you're applying for colleges. You want to go somewhere new, you want to be independent, you want to be away from your hometown, away from Palatine, Illinois. And when I got into the University of California, Berkeley, I was just so excited. This is exactly what I wanted, to go all the way to California, to a state I'd never visited before. I don't know why. But it was a wonderful experience. I visited with my parents. They were nervous to let me go to school so far away, but they did. They helped me move in all my things a few months later, and my parents and brother, they gave me such a big hug. My parents kissed me on my forehead, closed the door, and there I was in my dorm at Berkeley. Peak independence, all alone on the top bunk. An hour later, I picked up the phone and called my mom because I missed her. And I ended up really enjoying my time at Berkeley. In the March of 2020, I had to come back home during my junior year because of the pandemic, but I was lucky I could return to college for my last semester of senior year. That was the same semester I was applying for jobs. My job after college was actually supposed to be in Washington, D.C., but it ended up being remote permanently because of the pandemic. And after tasting that sweet, sweet taste of independence, I found myself back home, living with my parents, staying in the same bedroom with the blue-colored walls I had when I graduated high school, sitting at the same desk, doing my adult job. It's the same desk I wrote my college essays on. At first, I was upset. I felt like I wasn't taking the right steps in life. But there are so many things I learned in those months after I moved back home to live with my parents after college. One, no matter how old you get, your parents will still treat you like you are 15. 2, if you want to change the scenery, if you're, feeling a little stuck in the suburbs, Metra is your friend. And 3, you might want to avoid social media because comparison is the thief of joy. And on one of those afternoons, while I was sitting at home, taking a break from work, I was scrolling on Twitter back when it was called Twitter, and I came across a tweet that made me pause. Someone I followed on Twitter made a post. And it said, 6 years ago, my brother was diagnosed with a rare liver disease. He just graduated medical school, just got married, and is supposed to start his residency in June. Doctors informed us that the only treatment left is a full liver transplant. After waiting on the deceased donor list for a year, we turned to finding a living donor. My family and closest friends went through the process of testing to see if we'd be a match, but were unsuccessful. In these desperate times, I'm posting to see if anyone would be willing to get tested to see if they'd be a match. The person who posted was my brother's college roommate 7 years ago, posting about his brother. I hadn't seen my brother's college roommate or his brother who needed a liver transplant since I was in high school. Later, I would find out how dire his situation was. His body was yellow, he was constantly itching because his liver was no longer functioning. He vomited blood, and at one point, he had to get an emergency surgery to get his liver to function for just a little longer. After seeing the tweet, I instinctively retweeted it, obviously wanting for it to reach even more people. And at that moment, I thought, how could I only retweet this? This is like the definition of peak performative activism. I have to get tested. And at this point, I hadn't even realized that if you donate a portion of your liver, it can actually regrow, it regenerates. So I messaged him at 12:45 p.m. that day. Hey, I saw your tweets, praying for your family. And then a minute later, I asked, how do I find out if I'm a match? He sends back a number for Northwestern Hospital's Transplant Center hotline. I call the number, and I wait as someone answers the call, and a nurse explained that first, I need to fill out some paperwork, and then she asked me what my blood type was. And I'll admit, despite feeling like I was an adult, peak of independence, yada, 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 I didn't really know what my blood type was. So, at 2:30 p.m. that same day, I was in the waiting room at my primary care doctor's office, waiting to get my blood work done so I could figure out what my blood type was. And in that moment, I hadn't really registered what I was doing. After I found out my blood type, I filled out the paperwork, I just sent it back to Northwestern, and 10 days later, on a Friday afternoon, I received a call asking me if I would like to come in for an evaluation on Monday. On Monday, I drive into the city and go to Northwestern Hospital. I have tests scheduled all day from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. for my MRI. And this process, it was just happening faster than I even had time to process. The first thing they did was they walked me through what the surgery would look like. They make an incision, it's this big, they take out your gallbladder, it gets in the way, just toss it out. They take 2/3 of your liver, the right lobe, they put it in the recipient's body, and then they sew you up, and then they sew the recipient back up. And they're going through this whole explanation, and they're talking for like over an hour at this point, and all I can think about is, damn, why didn't I pay better attention in Mr. Graba's anatomy class? And over the course of the day, I speak to a psychiatrist, I speak to a nurse, a surgeon, a hepatologist, it's all part of the process. And one of the doctors makes a comment about my frame being thin. Going into the appointment, I had known that the donor recipient's insurance only covers one evaluation per week. So if I got evaluated that week, it would take another week to get results. And if not, I'm not a match. Then they'd have to proceed with scheduling someone else if they could come the following Monday. I started to get worried. Because a week in the life of someone with a rapidly progressing illness is a long time. I asked the doctor, do you think my liver size will match? And he indicated that we can only know for sure from the MRI, but given that I was thinner than my potential recipient, it may not be likely. The next doctor that examined me made a similar comment, and my heart sank. I went through the rest of the process. I got my MRI and I finally made my way out of the hospital, and I immediately called my mom and we started crying. I wasted a week of his life, I said. I wasted a week that they could have spent testing someone else who might have been a better candidate for a match. 7 days later, I get a call from the head nurse, and she tells me that I'm a match. She said, and I quote, "My liver was the cream of the crop." Not to brag, but it was the cream of the crop. And they wanted me to call back later to see if I'd like to proceed with the surgery. And it was such a profound moment. Up until then, it had just been go, go, go. And I saw the tweet, I messaged his brother, I got the blood work done, I did the exam, and now here I was with the opportunity to save a life. See, it was never a question for me about whether or not I'd actually go through with the surgery. I had known I would go through with the surgery the moment I messaged his brother. But it was a hard concept for me to wrap my mind around. You know, I had the privilege of not having any significant health complications my entire life. I've never broken a bone, I've never been in the hospital for too long, and now I was going into a surgery where I was willingly making myself sick. The morning of September 1st, 2021, my parents and I drove to the city. My nervous rambling was met with my parents' silence. They were scared too. Only one of my parents could join me in the room where patients are prepped for surgery. My mom joined me, and my dad sat anxiously in the waiting room. And I remember taking selfies with my mom to distract her a bit as the doctors came in and out to give me instructions. She was making that face where she's, you can see a little bit, where she's trying to hold back tears, but still be supportive of me. And at that moment, I felt lucky. I felt lucky to have parents who never questioned this decision I was making, who were afraid, as parents would be, when their child is going into surgery. The last thing I remember before I was wheeled into the surgery room was laughing with my mom as the anesthesia kicked in. When I woke up from the surgery, I remember feeling fine for a few minutes and then registering the sharp pain in my throat. My lips were dry and dehydrated. I had a big incision on my abdomen. I had a tube going through my nose down to my stomach, and I asked the doctor how my liver recipient was doing. And he told me that he had been doing better than he had been in years. The next 3 days passed in the hospital, and I was doing good. The nurses, they were coming in and out. They were making sure I was well medicated, taken care of. I was walking laps around the hospital floor. And because I was constantly on IV, my skin was popping off. It was so nice. And after those 3 days, they moved me to a nearby hotel so I could recover in an environment that was more similar to my home, but still close enough to the hospital in case anything came up. And that's when the recovery part of this process became very real. I was constantly nauseous, throwing up anything that I ate, and I had stitches up and down my abdomen that were still very raw. So, you can imagine how painful that was every time I threw up. My parents, they did everything for me. They lifted my head to give me water, they fed me, they held my hand as I walked around the hotel room. They were patient when I grew frustrated, understanding when I was sad, and kind when I was angry. Eventually, when we came back home, I slept next to my mom for a few days so she could take care of me in case I woke up in pain. The only food that didn't make me feel nauseous was Brussels sprouts. So my dad bought Brussels sprouts from every grocery store within a 5-mile radius and cooked it half a dozen ways before they were perfect. And I know that they look burnt, but that is exactly how I like them. So much love had been expressed to me in those 2 weeks from my parents. Despite being my weakest physically, I felt mentally and emotionally stronger than ever. My liver recipient said he had felt instant relief from the pain he had been experiencing for years. And my body was already growing back a whole new organ. And I think a lot about those days and those weeks leading up to the surgery. I think about how I went through this process of getting tested so quickly, and how despite how unlikely it seemed that I would be a match, I somehow was. And as I reflect on my experiences, I keep returning to how grateful I am. I'm so grateful to have moved back home to live with my generous parents, because if it weren't for how they raised me, I don't know if I would have gone through with the surgery so easily. And I'm so grateful that the proudest moment of my life will always be when I was 22. My liver recipient has started his medical residency program again, continuing his journey as a doctor to help people who suffer from the same disease he has. His health is a reminder that every day we face opportunities both big and small to show love for others. Over 4,000 people in Illinois are waiting for transplants and others are in urgent need of blood. In honor of Valentine's Day and National Organ Donor Day, which both coincidentally fall on February 14th, I ask you to consider spreading the love. Not everyone needs to be a living donor, but consider spreading the love and signing up to be on the Organ Donor Registry at lifegoeson.com and by donating blood. And to conclude, I would like to leave you with some very relevant Taylor Swift lyrics. If you ignore literally everything else and only focus on the last 3 lines of the bridge of You're on Your Own, Kid, because I certainly was not on my own, Taylor Swift writes, everything you lose is a step you take. So make the friendship bracelets, take the moment and taste it. You've got no reason to be afraid. When I first moved back home with my parents, I was missing out. I felt like I was missing out on something, that I had taken a step back. But home was the only place that I could have been in order to donate my liver. And as some of you embark on the next journey of your life, I want to encourage you to savor the moments, even when it doesn't feel like things are going your way. Thank you all.
All right, come up and say hi. Thank you, Third Hour. You were fantastic.